SLU escapes a very bad loss versus a winless Jackson State team who are now 0-8 on the season. We win this one 74-66. We're here for this Billiken reaction podcast to break it all down. Make sure to, of course, like and subscribe if you were watching or listening on YouTube. Make sure to follow and rate the podcast if you're on Spotify or Amazon Music. And, of course, go follow us on all social media, Instagram, TikTok, and on Twitter as well for daily St. Louis sports content. This week we are back to reaction podcasts, weekly episodes, daily clips being posted over there from SLU, the Cardinals, Blues, St. Louis City, all St. Louis sports. So make sure to go follow over there if you are from St. Louis or follow St. Louis sports in general. Like I said, SLU escaping this one 74-66. A Jackson State team, like I mentioned, 0-8 now on the year. They played a couple ranked teams in Kentucky and Xavier, and they came out with a lot more energy. They came out with a team looking like a team that had nothing to lose from this, and they did have nothing to lose. Like I said, a winless team who have no aspirations of making a March run or anything like that. They came out, and a SLU team. It's a very tough situation right now. We're getting finally some guys healthy. Right when we get Robbie Avila back, though, Kellen Thames has been dealing with some cramping, so he's out of the starting lineup for right now, and just cannot find that chemistry quite yet. But I don't even think the first 30 of the 40 minutes of this game had anything really to do so much with chemistry as much as it did with effort and playing with one another and playing for each other. I think that was the biggest issue in this one. There's a couple other issues. Obviously, the free throw shooting, 8 for 22 on the night. We did go 10 for 25 from 3. The turnovers tonight, 15 turnovers versus Jackson State. They only had 9 turnovers. They were 4 for 5 from the free throw line. We were 8 for 22 from the free throw line. So we had 4 more free throw makes on 17 more attempts. I mean, that's just about as bad as you can possibly get. And you have things like that happen. Like I said, 15 turnovers, 8 for 22 from the free throw line. I think a lot of the tonight's struggles was just mental coming into this thinking, and Coach Schertz actually mentioned this in the post-game press conference, that you come into this game thinking, can I play at a 62% effort and get away with it against a team like Jackson State? Can I play, we're not winning yet. Can I play at like a 67% or a 70%? And you just slowly kind of feel out the game temperature is how Coach Schertz described it. And that's a recipe for losing, honestly. If you have to work your way up throughout the game to get going and try to win that game later in this one, it's just a recipe for losing. And you have to come out, whether it be Jackson State, whether it be our next opponent, San Francisco, whether it be Wichita State, whether it be Kansas, the number 1 team in the country, you have to come out 100% ready to go. And I guarantee you, if we were playing a team that was top 10 in the country, like a team like Kansas or Gonzaga or Duke or any of those top tier teams, we would have came out with a whole nother effort. It would have been a whole different story. Now, along with that, like I said, I think that's the main thing, and I think that struggle to get going early also kind of just trickles right into free throw shooting. I mean, if you can't get your mind right to start the game, I think that has a huge effect on what happened at the free throw line, going 8 for 22. Kalu Anya, 1 for 4. Robbie Avila, 1 for 4. Amari McCotcher, who got the start for Kellen Thames, went 1 for 5. Isaiah Swope, 3 for 6. Jimerson hit both of his. And off the bench, Kellen Thames, 0 for 1 from the free throw line. I mentioned Thames not getting the start, and I mentioned briefly why he wasn't. He's dealing with some illness and then also cramping recently in the doctors and the whole coaching, medical staff, not coaching staff, the medical staff of the SLU Billikens are trying to figure out what the whole issue is with Kellen right now. So that's why he is not in the starting lineup. That's why his minutes were limited. They are giving him I believe it was 12 to 20 or 15 to 20 minute, maybe even 10 to 15 minute kind of restriction here for him to play. So Coach Scherz thought it was wise to have him off the bench for more of an energy guy that gives Amari McCautry some time. And in his 18 minutes, he played solid, 2 for 2. He was 1 for 5 from the free throw line. Like I said, 0 turnovers, though. Robbie Avila, 5 turnovers. And again, when it comes to Robbie, I think more than anything, it's rust right now. Robbie's not a guy that's going to take off plays in this one, but he was 5 for 11, 4 for 8 from 3, which was nice. As I mentioned, 1 for 4 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 15 points. I thought a lot of times in this game he showed what he can be and what he will be for SLU later in this season. But with Jackson State providing a lot of energy and a lot of defensive, just energy all over the place. Trapping guys, making it very difficult, and making us putting SLU in situations where we have to make a decision, whether hit the home run play or make a smart play. And a lot of times, especially in the first half, in the first probably about 10 minutes in the second half, we were trying to hit the home run play way too often. We hit it a couple times, but instead of just making that get into the lane, kick it back out, we were trying to go forcing up shots, forcing passes in tight windows. That's where a lot of these turnovers came from. Of the 15 turnovers, I mean, Kobe Johnson had 3 off the bench. Kellen had 1. Isaiah Swope and Jimerson both had 2. Robbie had 5. Anya had 1. So it's really no particular player you can point out for the loss in this one. I think it was a lot of just not playing together right from the get-go. And that's kind of been the opposite of how we've played earlier this year, especially against a team like Wichita State. That's the one game that really pops in my mind, is we come out firing from the beginning, get to halftime, and come out really slow in the second half. It was kind of the opposite in this one. Came out absolutely slow versus a winless team that I think our guys probably were just thinking they could just walk through. But we do not have that luxury yet to be that team, to be able to walk into a building and know that we're good enough and gelling well enough to beat the team while we're playing at our 65% effort. Now, I do think we have the talent. Between Isaiah Swope, Gibson, Jimerson, and Robbie Avila, those 3 guys alone can win you a lot of basketball games when they're gelling. But we haven't had that yet until these last couple of games because Robbie's been injured. And I've been telling a lot of people, Robbie is a guy that you run your whole offense through. Isaiah Swope is a tremendous, dynamic, explosive guard, streaky at times, but very explosive. And Gibson Jimerson is a knockdown shooter, one of the best 3-point shooters in all of the country. But the thing is, you have to have somebody for both of those guys. I mean, Isaiah Swope can create his own shot, obviously, but he has that chemistry with Robbie. And Gibson Jimerson needs a guy to feed him like he had with Yuri Collins in the past. Robbie is that guy in this offense. He's the center hub in this offense. You work everything through him. You cut off-ball cuts while he has the ball at the top of the key. You go DHO left and right with the ball in his hands. And when you don't have that chemistry, whether it be backdoor cuts or coming off of it, slip screens, split screens, whatever it may be, when you don't have that chemistry with Robbie yet, it's not going to look very pretty, and it hasn't so far yet. But I have a lot of belief. In this unit, especially the starting 5. You'd like to really see Larry Hughes explode more off the bench and be more of that, sixth man option for you. He really hasn't had any big games yet. Kellen Thames is obviously off the bench right now, but when he gets healthy, he will be back in that lineup for Amari McCautry. And then Kobe Johnson coming off the bench. Really good defensively. He was actually in the closing lineup tonight instead of Amari because of his closing or because of his defensive ability. So you know what you're going to get from him. It's just those 3 guys are going to be the reason you make a March Madness appearance or you don't. And that's Robbie, Swope, and Jimerson. And so hopefully now, I know we're 5-2, and I know this was an ugly game and an ugly win, but you're going to have so many opportunities and a pretty good Atlantic 10 conference coming up this season to have games to win that help your resume. And speaking of helping your resume, along with that, I should say really quickly, the chemistry will be building. That's what I was kind of talking about. The chemistry will be building as the season goes on with those 3 guys and the rest of the squad, obviously. But speaking of building our resume, we have a quad 1 road opponent in San Francisco from the West Coast Conference coming up on Thursday night at 9 p.m. at San Francisco. Tough road matchup. I mean, I know it's not a huge school, but this is a huge opportunity to see where we're at, and that's something Coach Shirt alluded to in the post-game press conferences. The fact that, we've played Jackson State, we've played Avila, which is a NAIA school. We've played these lower quality opponents, UMass Lowell, stuff like that, where we have a quad one road opponent where we can not come out like we did versus Jackson State and expect to win. And so it's really going to show where we're at right now. And I don't think we're anywhere near remotely close to where we're going to be in early February or late January. I think this team has a lot of potential still. And I definitely, SLU fans, I mentioned it on one of our other reaction podcasts for them, do not give up on this squad yet. A lot of potential. I do have to mention before we get out of here for this episode, two really cool things going on. Kalu Anya, kind of, he gets 4 or 5 shot attempts per game, 7 to 12 points. His average on the year, he's averaging 9 points, a couple assists. This is a guy that does all the dirty work for you, and I just have to give him a shout-out because I don't really talk about him enough. I talk about Robbie, obviously, and Isaiah Swope and Jimerson because they do a lot of the bulk scoring, rebounding, assisting for you. I guess not all the rebounding because that's what I'm going to shout out Kalu Anya for. He is 5th in the country in rebounding right now, 11.5 per game. I believe he has had every game but 2 this year. He's had double digits reboundings, including one game versus Quinnipiac last Monday where he had 18 rebounds. This is a guy that just right place, right time, big, strong body, standing at 6'8", 225. Transfer from Brown, who is immediately in that starting lineup, and he's been arguably one of the most consistent players in our starting lineup throughout this entire season so far. One more really cool stat to share before we get out of here. Gibson Jimerson stands 12 points away from the SLU scoring record, and so that's something to definitely keep an eye on versus San Francisco on Thursday. After that, we have a Sunday game. I believe it's at Illinois State. No, we have a Sunday game. That's next Sunday. We have a Sunday game versus Chicago State at home. They're 0-10 on the year as well. So these next 2 games, I would imagine to be against San Francisco, the way he's been shooting it, but perhaps he gets it at home versus Chicago State. We'll see how that San Francisco game goes. He was asked about it in the post-game press conference, and he kind of got around the question by saying he will do whatever it takes to win, obviously, but whether that be scoring or rebounding or defensively being a presence. But hopefully he gets 20-plus points versus San Francisco, doesn't have to push off that scoring record, leads us to a victory, and we can just move on from there. But really cool record for Gibson Jimerson, the absolute gym rat. The guy shoots the cover off the ball, but he's been here for several years now and, has gotten better and better every single year. He's a true college basketball player when it comes to development and just getting better every year. So that's really cool to see with Gibson Jimerson. It's going to be a really well-deserved honor as well. That record kind of creeped up on me as well. I didn't realize he was coming that close to it. So really cool for Gibson Jimerson. Like I said, ugly win tonight for SLU, but a win is a win, and as ugly as it is, it's way better than a loss to Jackson State. I'll tell you that right now. So the team sits at 5-2 right now with 2 games coming up this week. We have Thursday night, as I mentioned, at San Francisco. That's a huge game moving forward for our squad. And then we have Chicago State 0-10 on the season on Sunday at 2 p.m. at home. And then we go back on the road next week. So big game versus San Francisco on Thursday. I will be recapping that on Friday morning, so make sure to tune into that reaction podcast. I will actually see you guys tomorrow on Wednesday, if you're listening on this on a Tuesday. I will see you on Wednesday morning for a St. Louis Blues reaction podcast, as I will be recapping that Blues game as well. So hopefully I see you guys on Wednesday morning. If not, make sure to tune in to the SLU reaction podcast on Friday, and of course our normal podcast on Friday. I was supposed to come out with one on Monday, just wasn't able to get to it, so make sure to tune into that one on Friday. We're going to definitely dive into some Cardinals off-season discussions and, of course, cover the Blues and SLU as well. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow and rate the podcast on Spotify and Amazon Music. Of course, go follow us on all social media at Arch City Sports, Instagram and TikTok especially, and I will see you guys on Wednesday for the Blues Reaction Podcast.